Hello everyone, welcome to the Daily Current Affair Analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy, 4th October 2025. Before getting into the discussion, please make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't, please do subscribe and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time updates from the Academy. Before getting into the topics for the discussion, we have an important announcement. It is regarding the pre-storming UPSC Prelims Test Series. Batch 2 will be starting on 16th October 2025. Link for the registration is available on the website. Do register and crack the prelims in 2026. Coming to the topics for today's discussion, the first topic is about the earthquake in Turkey. So the Istanbul experienced an earthquake with a magnitude of 5. So in this topic, we will be discussing the basics about the earthquake and also why the Turkey is frequently experiencing earthquake. And the next article is regarding the World Food India. So recently the event was held in the national capital. So we will be discussing what are the initiatives taken here. And the next article is regarding the environmental surveillance and how it is related to the public health. And the next article, Crimes in India Report 2023. So recently the National Crime Records Bureau released the Crimes in India Report 2023. So we will be discussing what are the key findings and what are the major challenges in fighting crimes in India and what are the certain initiatives taken by the government to tackle these challenges. And finally, we will be discussing some of the important topics focusing on the prelims. So without much delay, let's begin the discussion with the first article. Earthquake with the preliminary 5 magnitude shakes Istanbul, causing panic. The article is taken from The Hindu. On Thursday, that is on October 2nd, the city of Istanbul in the northwestern part of Turkey experienced a moderately strong earthquake with a magnitude of 5. So in this background, we will be discussing the basics about the earthquake and also why Turkey is prone to earthquake. So starting with the earthquake. So we know that it is a phenomena that involves violent shaking of the earth, that is surface and everything over it. And it is a result of release of large scale accumulated energy of a moving lithospheric or a crustal plate. So imagine that there is a convergent plate. So you can see that both plates will be trying to overcome each other and it is stopped by the friction. But one point of time, the plates will overcome the friction. As a result, large scale energy will be released and that large scale energy will be experienced in the form of earthquake. And that released energy will be measured in magnitude using the Richter scale. And coming to the parts of earthquake, so the point where the earthquake originates, it is known as focus. And epicenter, it is a point where the which is lying exactly above the focus, and this is the first place to receive the tremor. And once the earthquake happens, two type of waves will be generated, that is body waves and the surface waves. So body waves can be classified into P wave and S wave. So the P wave is a primary wave, it is fastest, and because of it, this wave will be the first to reach the ground, and it can travel through liquid, solid, and gaseous matter. And in the case of secondary wave, it is relatively slower and it can travel only through the solids. And that is why if you take the case of P wave, the shadow zone of the P wave is located between 105 and 145, while in the case of the S wave, because it cannot travel through the gaseous and the liquid matter, so therefore the beyond the 105, it is shadow zone for the S wave. And when both reaches the ground, it generates surface waves, which is violent and most disastrous. And we can see that the science, the earthquakes are also called seismic activity, and the science, that is the study of earthquake, is called seismology. And coming to the case of Turkey, so why the Turkey is prone to earthquake? So you can see that in 2023, the earthquake in Turkey and the northwestern Syria resulted into loss of life for nearly 60,000 plus people. And a few months back, the northwestern Turkey experienced an earthquake. So why the Turkey is prone to earthquake? Because the first is the location of the Turkey, that is the tectonic location of the Turkey. So the Turkey, the country, is located on a microplate called Anatolian plate, and this Anatolian plate is located in the convergence zone of 3 major plates, that is Eurasian plate in the north, African plate in the south, and also the Arabian plate in the southeast direction. And you can see that this African plate and Arabian plate, they are pushing this Anatolian plate towards the north, and this will lead to a lot of immense, lot of tectonic stress, and the net result will be frequent seismic activities or earthquakes. And here we will discuss with the help of a map. So we can see that 2 major fault lines are passing through the Turkey, that is North Anatolian and East Anatolian fault. And you can see that most of the times the regions in this region around this faults are highly vulnerable to seismic activities. And here you can see the African plate, and here you can see the Arabian plate, and above we have the Eurasian plate. So this African plate and this Arabian plate, they will push this Anatolian plate towards the north. So this force, so all these conditions generates immense tectonic pressure in this region or stress in this region, and that leads to a lot of seismic activities and earthquake. So this is the reason behind the Turkey is experiencing the earthquake, and you can see that in 2023 the reason behind the major earthquake was the East Anatolian, the seismic activity in the along the East Anatolian plate, and a few months back the northwestern part of Turkey experienced the earthquake because of the disturbance in the North Anatolian fault. And you can see that two major faults, that is North Anatolian and East Anatolian. So most of the times the seismic activities will be recorded in this region, and you can see that heavy constructions in this region will make the regions even more vulnerable to seismic activities. And coming to the certain studies, you can see that according to the estimate, almost 90% of the country's landmass, that is 90% of the Turkey's landmass, is prone to earthquake, and about third of the country is at the high risk of earthquake activities, especially the major cities like Istanbul and Izmir. So in this topic we discussed the basics about earthquake and why the Turkey is prone to seismic activities. So we have a previous year prelims question. It is taken from 2023 prelims. The question is, consider the following statements. Statement 1, in a seismograph, P waves are recorded earlier than S waves. Statement 2, in P waves the individual particles vibrate to and fro in the direction of the wave propagation, whereas in S waves the particles vibrate up and down at the right angles to the direction of wave propagation. Which of the given statements is or are correct? So you can see that the P wave comparing with the S wave, it is faster, so therefore it will be the first to reach the ground and it will be recorded, therefore the statement 1 is correct. And in P waves the particles will be vibrate to and fro like this. So therefore here this up to the statement up to here it is correct, and in the case of S wave the particles will be moving up and down. Yes, so therefore the statement 2 is also correct. So both statements are correct here. So the correct answer is option C, both 1 and 2. So with this we will move to the next article. World Food India tracks over 1 lakh crore in food processing sector by global domestic giants. The article is taken from The Hindu. So we know that the World Food India was started in the Bharat Mandapam in New Delhi on 28th September. And in this event, the government of India signed a lot of agreements with the different companies, both in global level as well as in domestic level. So let us discuss more about World Food India. So World Food India, it's an event organized by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, and the first meeting was, or the first event was held in 2017 in New Delhi, and the theme for 2025 is making India the food basket of the world. And the purpose is showcasing India as a global hub of food processing to attract more foreign direct investments and also boost the export from India. And you can see that in this event we have signed nearly 26 memorandum of understandings with various leading international and national companies. That includes Nestle India, Reliance, Amul, Tata Consumer Products Private Limited. Like that, we have signed the memorandum of understanding with nearly 26 leading international and national companies. And you can see that through this we are expecting an investment worth of over 1 lakh crore. And we are also expecting an employment generation of nearly 64,000 direct employment for individuals, and indirect employment nearly 1 lakh. That is, we are expecting nearly 64,000 direct employment generation and 10 lakh indirect employment generation. And you can see that various memorandum of understandings were signed for many greenfield and brownfield projects. So what are these greenfield and brownfield projects? The greenfield projects includes investment in the new facilities built from the scratch. That means investment for a new startup or a new facility. For example, we have signed a memorandum of understanding with the Coca-Cola to set up a Coca-Cola bottling plant. And the next is brownfield projects. So these are the investments in the existing facilities to upgrade or enhance the facilities. For example, expanding capacity at an existing dairy plant. For example, we can see that one of the companies signed memorandum of understanding with the food processing ministry is the Amul, the cooperative in the milk, the dairy cooperative in the state of Gujarat. And coming to the organizer, so the Ministry of the Food Processing Industry. So they are the nodal ministry for policy making, and the promotion of the food processing sector in India. And the major schemes of this ministry includes Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana, which is focusing on mega park, food parks and all, and integrating the cold chains, and also developing the agro processing clusters across country. So you can see that the foods, many agro products are easily perishable. So what happens, instead of letting them the products to perish, we can add the value through processing, or for example, if you take the case of Makana itself, Makana has a high value and if we can process them into into high value products, like we can process the makana into as an alternative for various junk products. So makana is healthy, at the same time it has high value, so therefore it will be useful for the farmers as well as for the people. So such initiatives are taken by the Ministry of the Food Processing Industries through the Pradhan Mantri Kisan Sampada Yojana. And next we have the production linked incentive scheme for the food processing sector that incentivizes branded food products, organic foods and ready to eat items. So these are the major initiatives taken by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries, and they are the nodal ministry for the promotion of food processing sector in India, and they are the organizers of the World Food India. And coming to the prelims practice question, the question is, consider the following statements regarding food processing in India. Statement 1, greenfield projects involve expansion of existing processing facilities, while brownfield projects are entirely new startups. Statement 2, World Food India is organized by the Ministry of Food Processing Industries to attract global investments in the food sector. Which of the above statements is or are correct? So option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, and option D neither 1 nor 2. So from our discussion we can see that greenfield projects involve expansion of existing processing facilities. No, that is brownfield. Greenfield is for entirely new startups. So the statement 1 is incorrect, while the statement 2 is correct. So the correct answer is option B 2 only. So with this, we will move to the next article. Why is environmental surveillance important? The article is taken from The Hindu. So we know that environmental surveillance, that is constantly monitoring the environment, it is not just important for ensuring the health of the nature, but it is also very important in ensuring the health of the people. Let us discuss more. So under this environmental surveillance, we can monitor the pathogens, that is disease causing organisms like bacteria, virus and parasites from sewage, wastewater, soil and public places. And what is the purpose? So the purpose is getting an early warning of outbreak even before the clinical appearance of the cases. So if we know that most of the time we will detect an infection or a disease only when the people with the symptoms appears in the hospital or in the clinics. But if we can monitor the environment, we can monitor the pathogens constantly, then we can get an early sign of an outbreak even before the infection affects the people. And it is very crucial for the diseases with symptomatic or mild cases often missed by clinical testing. So if you take the case of influenza and flu, in the beginning the symptoms will be more or less similar, and you can see that there is a possibility of missing the real infection also. And what happens, this can lead to an outbreak. And recently we know that in the post monsoon time, the Delhi experienced an outbreak of influenza. And the next is how it is done. First is collecting the pathogens from the sources like sewage plants, hospital effluents, public places like bus stations or railway stations, airplane toilets and soil. And next we will be after collecting the virus like COVID-19, influenza, polio, measles and bacteria such as which are responsible for cholera, and worms such as roundworms and hookworms, then we will collect then this collected pathogens will be presented for lab detection. And what happens, then we will also conduct genome sequencing to identify the variants, and then we can track them daily to understand the nature, their growth and further developments. So through this we can say that if you take the influenza also, there are various types and subtypes, and if you take the COVID also, we can see various types and subtypes. So genome sequencing of these pathogens are also very important in ensuring public health, not just in the present but also in the future. And for that we need a constant environmental surveillance, especially the monitoring of the pathogens. So once again, so we'll be collecting the pathogens like virus, bacteria and worms from the following sources. Then we will present the samples for lab detection, and then we will conduct the genome sequencing to identify the variants, and later we will study them daily to understand their growth and development. And what is the significance? So the significance is the first is a limitation of the traditional surveillance. So the traditional surveillance will be based on the clinical cases. That means we will the most of the time the infection will be identified only when the people with the symptoms appears in the hospital or in the clinics, and there is a possibility of missing the asymptomatic or mild cases and underestimating the true infection, like I mentioned in the case of influenza and the flu. And the next is environmental surveillance. What are the it has certain advantages. What are those advantages? First is early warning. So we can identify the diseases even before the outbreak. And the next is we can show the real real community disease burden. For example, if you go through the traditional surveillance method in an area, only we will be targeting only the people who are infected or people with the symptoms. But if you want to get the true disease burden in that area, then we have to study the air in that region if the infection is airborne. Then we have to study the water in that region if the infection is waterborne. For example, if you want to get the real data about the disease burden of polio in a particular region, we have to study the people. At the same time, we have to study the water sources in that region, because we know that the contaminated water is one of the major sources behind the in transmission of polio and cholera. So in such cases, understanding the people, understanding the nature is also very important. Then only we can get the real community disease burden. And like I mentioned, the major advantage is even before the outbreak we will get the warning. And historical use. So we have following this methodology for the past 40 years to monitor various diseases like polio, cholera and measles. So we can see that the polio and cholera both are can be transmitted through contaminated water, and measles can be transmitted through contaminated air. And India, we have our own experience. For example, in 2001 in Mumbai, we used the wastewater surveillance to track or monitor the polio infection, and followed by that in 2015 we became polio free. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, we are conducting wastewater surveillance in 5 Indian cities, and still the research is going on. And coming to the major challenges, so what are the major challenges in monitoring the environment or monitoring the pathogens? First is a challenge associated with the data sharing, that is lack of coordinated sharing across labs and institutions. And the next is sustainability of the projects. So you can see that most of the current efforts are done by different institutions or laboratories are project driven, and they are short term. We have to replace it with the programmatic approach, with the long term mission, with the integrated routine surveillance. That means we have to exchange the data between different organizations and institutions. At the same time, we need a long term goal. That means instead of focusing on a small area for a short time, we have to focus on a large area in a long term. Then only we can understand this methodology or this method will become effective. And the next is bringing a standardization. That is, we need a common protocols to conduct the procedure, and also we need different frameworks for different infections and diseases. And then we need a national wastewater surveillance system which is institutionalized, continuous and nationwide to strengthen this environmental monitoring. And what are the efforts we have taken so far? So we can see that ICMR, that is Indian Council of Medical Research, they are planning to conduct wastewater surveillance for 10 viruses across 50 cities in India, and it is extended to high risk viruses like avian influenza in the regions with the frequent outbreak of the infection. And we can see that currently we are applying the AI and machine learning to understand the respiratory problems. That means the sound of the coughing will be recorded by the machine, and then it will be processed to understand whether there is a presence of any infection or any new disease inside that person. So integrating the technology will be useful in the upcoming days. So in this topic we discussed what is environmental surveillance, the importance of monitoring the pathogens, and what are the key advantages of this methodology comparing with the traditional methods. So based on this, try to answer this mains practice question. The question is, prevention is better than cure. In this context, discuss the significance of environmental monitoring in strengthening the public health. So it's a 10 marks question, and you have to write around 150 words. Write the answer from our discussion and post it in the comment section, and we will review and we will reply for your answer. Now it's time to move to the next article. Rise in cybercrime, most crimes against women in Uttar Pradesh. How to read National Crime Record Bureau's 2023 Crime in India report. The article is taken from Indian Express. So we know that in the September 2025, the National Crime Records Bureau, they released the Crime in India report 2023. So in this background, we'll be discussing what are the key findings and what are the major challenges in fighting crimes in India, and also what are the initiatives taken by the government. So starting with the Crime in India report 2023, the report was published by the National Crime Records Bureau, which is working under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the report was published on 29th September 2025. And the purpose is compiling state-wise crime data for better policy making, law enforcement, and for generating public awareness. So starting with the key findings. So what are the key findings? So the crime rate in 2023 is standing at 448.3 per lakh population. That means in every 1 lakh people, 448 crime cases are reported. And comparing with the 2022, it got increased. In 2022, the crime rate was 422.2 per lakh population, but in 2023, it is 448.3 per lakh population. And the next is the violation of Motor Vehicle Act, got nearly doubled. So in 2022, it was 94,450, but in 2023, it is 1.92 lakh. And the next is crimes against the human body got increased by 2.3% with annual reported cases of 11.85 lakh. And the next is murder cases. Murder cases, we can see that there is comparing with the 2022, there is a drop by 2.8%, but still in 2023 we can see that nearly 27,721 cases are reported. And the next is cybercrime. So the biggest concern is the emerging cybercrime. So you can see that comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 31.2%. But still, you can see that since if you take the data from 2018, there's a steady increase in the cyber crimes in India. So in 2018, nearly 27,248 cases are reported, but in 2023, we can see that nearly 86,420 cases are reported. And comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 31%. And the major hotspots of the cyber crimes are Karnataka, Telangana, and Uttar Pradesh. And you can see that the cyber crime rate is standing at 6.2 per lakh population. That means for every 1 lakh population, 6.2 people are facing some sort of cyber crimes. And you can see that comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 2 points. That is, in 2022 it was 4.8, but currently it is 6.2. And the major motives behind the cyber crimes are fraud, which contributes nearly 68% of the total cyber crime cases, followed by extortion, sexual exploitation. And the next is crimes against children. So comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 9.2%. You can see that in 2023 there are total 1,77,335 cases of crimes against children are reported. And out of this total cases, 45% of the cases are related to kidnapping or abduction, and you can see that 38.2% of cases comes under POSCO Act. And the next is increasing crimes against the scheduled tribe. So comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 28.8%. And the worst affected state is the state of Manipur because of the current ethnic tension. And other major states are Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. So in Madhya Pradesh, we can see that nearly 2,858 cases are reported, and in the state of Rajasthan, 2,453 cases are reported. And the next is the crimes against the scheduled caste. So in the year 2023, there's a total cases of 89. And the top states are Uttar Pradesh, followed by Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and Bihar. And the crimes against women. So comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 0.7%, and in 2023 we can see that nearly 4,48,221 cases are reported across India, and the crime rate is currently standing at 66.2 per lakh women. That means in every 1 lakh women, 66.2 women are facing violence or any sort of crimes. And you can see that the top states are Uttar Pradesh, followed by Maharashtra, Rajasthan, West Bengal, and Madhya Pradesh. And major categories of the crimes are cruelty from husband or relatives, which contributes nearly 29.8% of the total cases, followed by abduction and assault to outrage modesty. And you can see that 14% of the cases falls under the POSCO Act. And what are the major challenges in fighting crimes in India? First major issue is the structural issues. That means shortage of police force, especially the lack of women staff in the police station, overburden of the judiciary which can delay the justice, and also the outdated laws. So outdated laws may not be able to deal with the present complex cases, especially the cyber crimes and all. And the next is emerging crimes such as cyber crimes, organized crime, and act of terrorism and radicalization. And the next is the socio-economic factors. We know that the socio-economic factors are also related to the increasing case of crimes. The issues like poverty and inequality will force the people to engage in antisocial activities, including murder and kidnapping or robbery and all. And the next is the ongoing communal tension or caste tensions in India, especially the state of Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and Manipur. Manipur recorded the highest number of crimes against the ST communities. So such issues are also major challenges in fighting crimes in India. And the next is urban stress. That means the growing unemployment in the urban area, growing urban poverty rate can also contribute to crime. And also the next is a data gap. That means under-reporting of the cases. So you can see that even in the crime in India report 2023, we are only talking about the recorded cases. There are many cases which are going under-recorded or uncounted. So if you take the case of this National Crime Record Bureau itself, they are preparing this data based on the principal offense rule. So what is principal offense rule? So imagine that there's a crime. For example, a person got murdered after the attempt of robbery. In that case, only the principal crime will be counted. That means only murder will be counted, not the robbery. So such this type of principles or this type of methodology can leads to undercounting of the crimes. So once again I'll repeat. So if there is a crime, for example, if a person got murdered after the attempt of robbery, in that case only the murder will be counted, not the robbery. So in this case you can see that the robbery, the secondary crime will go undercounted. So coming to the major measures taken by the government to address these challenges. So the first is the reforms in the legal system. So we can see that in 2023-24 we replaced the colonial framework such as IPC and the Evidence Act with the modern Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, Bharatiya Nagarik Surakshit Sanhita and also Bharatiya Sakshya Bill. So we can see that if you take the case of IPC, that is Indian Penal Code, it was framed in the year 1860. And if you take the case of Evidence Act, it was framed in the year 1872. So it was framed in the 19th century, and that too during the colonial times, and it lacked many provisions to deal with the present nature of crimes. And the next is the Prevention of Money Laundering Act and the Prevention of Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So you can see that under the Money Laundering Act, where the authorities can seize the properties or assets or the profit that a person gained through illegal activities. And the next is Unlawful Activities Prevention Act is very important in ensuring social harmony and also political stability. So both are focusing on tackling organized crimes and terrorism. So how this PMLA will be tackling the terrorism? So we can see that one of the major sources of income for the terrorist organizations or any radical organizations will be the black money. So the black money which is earned through illegal activities will be the major source of income for this terrorist organization. So through this Prevention of Money Laundering Act, we will be monitoring all the transactions and the profits made by any person. If there is any problems in this, we can seize the property or we can freeze his account. And the next is the POSCO Act of 2012, so which is focusing on ensuring greater protection for the children against the harassment. And we can see that under the POSCO Act, a person can be sent for 20 years of rigorous life imprisonment or sometimes for capital punishment also, and that will be depending on the nature of the crime committed by that person. And the next is the Prevention of SCST Prevention of Atrocities Act. So you can see that under this act, similar like the POSCO Act, depending on the nature of the crime, the punishment will also become rigorous. So we can see that a person can be sent for rigorous life imprisonment or sometimes death penalty is also possible. For example, if a person fabricated evidence against the person belongs to SCST community, in that case, death penalty can be also granted. And the next is the cybercrime. So we can see that the cybercrimes is the biggest concern these days, because you can see that comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 31%, and there is a steady increase since 2018. In 2018, the reported cybercrimes were nearly 25,000, but now we can see that it is nearly 84,000 plus. And considering this, the government of India established the Cybercrime Coordination Center, which will be working under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and it will be focusing on cyber forensics training for the officials, and they will be also contributing to the investigation. And the next we have the National Cybercrime Reporting Portal, which was launched in 2019. So through this, the citizen can directly file their complaints, and they can track the status of their complaint. And the next is Cyber Swachhta Kendra. So they will be alerting the users about any malware or botnets. And the next is the security for the women. So we can see that comparing with the 2022, there is an increase by 0.7%, right? And the states like Uttar Pradesh recorded highest number of crimes against women. So therefore, the government took a lot of initiatives such as one-stop centers. They will be providing medical, legal and psychological support to the women survivors. And the next is Nirbhaya Fund will be focusing on women safety projects. And the next we have the women helpline desk in the police stations and panic buttons in mobile phones and public transport. And next we have the child helpline number, that is 1098, and the POSCO e-box for ensuring better child protection. So recently there was an incident in Kerala that a boy from 4th or 5th standard, he wrote a story about the problems he is facing from his home, from his parents. And the story was immediately taken into consideration, and the government immediately investigated into this issue, and they took action against his parents. So such initiatives is a role model for every other institutions. And the next is the forensic and the technological push. For that, we have the National Forensic Science University and the regional forensic labs. So they will be supporting the investigations. And you can see that in the case of heinous crimes under the new criminal laws, the forensic investigation is mandatory. And we have the fast track court for to provide justice in case of sexual offences. And next is the interstate and international coordination. So we can see that we have CBI. They will be coordinating. They will be cooperating with the Interpol in for various for investigating various crimes. And next we have the National Crime Records Bureau itself. So it is working under the Ministry of Home Affairs, and it serves as a repository of crime data. And you can see that they publish various reports like Crime in India report and all. And we have the CBI, like I mentioned, to coordinate with the Interpol. And we have signed memorandum of understanding with the various countries for extradition and the cyber cooperation. For example, recently we brought the Tahavur Rana from the United States as an example of the memorandum of understandings with other countries. So in this topic, we discussed the Crime in India report. What are the key findings? What are the major challenges in fighting crimes in India? And what are the measures taken by the government of India to tackle these challenges? So regarding that, we have a mains question. The question is, the National Crime Record Bureau Crime in India report 2023 shows a decline in murder cases, but a sharp increase in cybercrime and crimes against vulnerable groups. Discuss the key challenges in crime control and evaluate the measures taken by the government to strengthen India's criminal justice system. So we can write all the measures. That means if we discussed what are the measures taken, right? Reforms in the legal system, at the same time focusing more on cyber crimes like the national crime cybercrime portal and all. So such initiatives we can address. And for better protection of women and children, we have taken a lot of initiatives. We have discussed all this. So based on this, you can write the answer and post it in the comment section. We will review and we will reply for your answer. Now it's time to move to the next article. So coming to the prelims focus, the first topic is postal ballot. So we know that the postal ballot or the postal voting facility, it's a facility provided by the Election Commission to the people who cannot physically present in the polling booth on the day of election. And it is usually provided to the people working in the armed force or government employees on the election duty, essential service personnel like railway and media, and also to the people with the disabilities and the senior citizens. And why it is in the news? Because recently the opposition, they demanded the Election Commission to count the postal ballot before the EVM counting, and the Election Commission rejected this demand, because according to the Rule 54A of the Conduct of Elections Rules 1961, the postal ballots will be counted only after the EVM counting. And the next topic, e-observer system. So recently the government is planning to introduce an onboard electric observer system for remote monitoring and recording of marine fish catch. So we know that the trawling is an important source of income for various communities, but at the same time there are certain norms and regulations. You cannot catch fish beyond a particular time, and we cannot catch fish beyond a particular quantity, because it will affect the marine ecosystem. So therefore, to monitor this, now the government is planning to introduce an onboard electric observer system, and it is developed by the Fishery Survey of India. And the government announced this about this initiative after the workshop on species identification and data collection for tuna and allied species. And it is this initiative will be implemented by the Ministry of Fisheries, Animal Husbandry and Dairy, and the aim is to provide accurate scientific data for stock assessment and management by observing fishing operations across various vessel types. And coming to the next topic, it is Lecanemab. So it's a monoclonal anti-drug recently approved by the Australia. So what is meant by monoclonal anti-drug? So it is it's a lab-made drug which is capable of targeting specific molecules which are responsible for any particular disease or condition. So here the Lecanemab will be used for dealing to deal with the Alzheimer's. So the medicine, the antibody drug, will be targeting the amyloid proteins in the brain. So we know that the accumulation of the amyloid and the tau proteins are the major reasons behind the neurodegenerative conditions like Alzheimer's. So this will reduce the accumulation of the proteins. So and this will delay, or this will act against the progression of the Alzheimer's. And there are concerns associated with this drug. That is, first of all, the cost, that is high cost, and there is a possibility for side effects such as brain swelling and all. So therefore it will limit the high cost of this drug will limit the accessibility. At the same time, the concern over the side effect will raise questions on the safety. So coming to the prelims practice question, the question is with reference to the postal ballots in Indian elections, consider the following statements. Statement 1, postal ballots are legally governed under the Representation of Peoples Act 1951. Statement 2, the present practice is that postal ballots are counted before electronic voting machines as per the Rule 54A of the Conduct of Elections Rules 1961. Statement 3, persons above 85 years of age and persons with disabilities are eligible to vote through postal ballots. So which of the above statements is or are correct? So they are asking for the correct statements. So we can see that from our discussion, the postal ballots are not governed under the Representation of Peoples Act 1951. It is governed under the Rule 54A of the Conduct of Elections Rules 1961. So the statement 1 is incorrect. So we can eliminate the option A and option D. And the next is statement 2. The present practice is that postal ballots are counted before the electronic voting machines. No. First the electronic voting machines will be counted. After that only the postal ballots will be counted. So the statement 2 is also incorrect. So if you can eliminate the statement 2, we can eliminate the option B also. So the correct answer is option C, that is 3 only. Let's check. Yes. So with this we will move to the conclusion. With this, we are coming to the conclusion for today's current affair analysis. If you like the video, hit the like button, give your feedbacks as comments and share this content with your friends. And before leaving this channel, don't forget to subscribe and also hit the bell icon to receive on-time updates from the academy. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for listening to me. Have a nice day.